2 years of studying magic, and was also able to emulate it with his keen sense and change it into something that suits him nicely. However, if he remembers his past life and used to be comrades with the great Vermouth, he might be Hamel. He was a unique individual in many ways. Senya grew up with the elves and learned magic from them. Moron was the brave son of a great chieftain of the Bayar tribe that was well known for being a tribe which reveled in battle and lived in the north. Anis was always a saintess candidate, who the cardinals of the Holy Empire spent their whole lives molding, and Vermouth was initially a slave. He was among those who were dragged away to become offerings of the demon race, and he stole the sword of a demon to try and survive at any costs. With that first sword he swung, he cut down thousands of demons and dark mages who were escorting the slaves. While he led them and tried to escape Helmud, he cut down endless demonic beasts. Mare notes that she thought that the story was exaggerated, but that's how legends usually end up like. Eugene notes that he wasn't there, but it's probably true, as that guy was a monster, through and through. Hamel is the most unique from the hero party, as he didn't start with cheat stats like Vermouth, or have a special upbringing like the others. He simply picked up a sword to survive after his village was butchered and destroyed by monsters. He became a mercenary, filled with hatred towards monsters, and any demonic being, including the Demon King. Despite having the most common background, he was able to grow and become strong enough to stand amongst the heroes for years. Now that she knows he is Hamel, his outrageous growth state is explained. Although the Hamel who appeared in the books had a bad personality, he was also exceptional when it came to growth. Eugene explains that isn't the whole truth, as he tried to surpass Vermouth countless times and trained with countless weapons. But still, the outcome was almost always the same, and he never beat him. Mare wonders why would have challenged that beast, as he was quite a monster, in terms of stats and abilities. Eugene notes that he didn't care, and only wanted to beat him, at least once, but wasn't able to do so. Mare asks why he called himself handsome previously, as that is a very selfish thing to do. Eugene doesn't find it weird, as even in his past life, he was quite attractive. Mare asks why is he telling her all of this. She doesn't know a thing about Senya's whereabout either. Eugene says that he's not telling her all of this in hopes for some information. It's just that he has known her for 2 years, and she resembles Senya a lot, in both personality and looks. Mare notes it's because she has Senya as a base. Eugene pats her head and asks if he's crossing a line just now. Mare notes that she will forgive him just this once, since he is, or was, Senya's comrade. Eugene asks if she thinks Senya died, but she thinks otherwise, as she couldn't have. Eugene says that he believes it to be so as well, as she would have left a will behind. So he is going to look for her. Senya, Moron, Anis. He's sure they are all living somewhere in this world, and he will find all of them. Mare is shocked by his words, and asks if he will really be able to bring Senya back. Eugene in turn asks if she misses Senya, which she does, as she hasn't seen her in so many years. He notes that if that is the case, he has all the more reason to bring her back. But she has quite the ugly side, right? She ignored her familiar spirit for well over 2 centuries, which doesn't seem all that kind. Mare asks him to not talk about Senya that way, but he notes that he of all people should be allowed to, as in the past, she talked a lot of crap without any backing. Mare asks that he swear in front of witchcraft, that he really is Hamel, the foolish of legend. Eugene says that he will, to show that he is, but can she take the foolish out when he is referring to him? As it's quite annoying. They make their way to witchcraft, and Eugene puts his hand up while swearing. His name is Eugene Lionheart, and he was Hamel Dinus in his past life. He swears this upon his blood, and the Lionheart family name, that he is telling the truth, and only the truth. Mare, who now seems to be connected to witchcraft, has no reaction, and explains that after Senya disappeared mysteriously, many mages tried to take apart witchcraft and her. However, there is something that they were never able to find out, no matter how much they looked. The information recorded at the very bottom of witchcraft's roots. What they will talk about now will be saved here, and not revealed to even the most trusted companions or confidants. What she is about to speak right this moment is also something that is unknown to all of Aroth. There were signs before Senya went into retirement. Eugene is quite shocked by this, and asks her to explain further. Mare notes that after a week before Senya departed, she was on this very floor of Acreon with her. That's when, completely out of the blue, She fell to the floor and started to groan. When she asked what was wrong, Senya explains that she had this reaction because her familiar spirit had died. The same familiar spirit positioned at Hamel's grave. She said that somebody must have broken into his grave and was extremely angry, like she has never been before. Eugene is surprised that he had a grave in the first place, as he thought that his body was left to rot. Mer says that was the first time she heard about it, and not long after this revelation, Senya disappeared, and she hid the conversation within witchcraft, since it was something she didn't tell a single soul before vanishing. She just didn't want to put her in an even more difficult situation, in case that was something she shouldn't talk about at all. But since he is Hamel, her oldest comrade and friend, he deserves to know about it. Eugene notes that he never heard a single thing about his grave, as he thought that his body would have simply vanished because of Belial's curse, since a lich's curse destroys both body and soul. Mer says that yes, normally that is the case, but his soul was fine, and he reincarnated. That means that his body is also intact somewhere too. Eugene notes that if that really is the case, Senya really might have been involved in his reincarnation after all. Later that night, while walking on a lonely road, Eugene thinks that if Senya was really the one to dig him a grave, it would be hidden somewhere, and quite well. But where could it be? People usually choose places that are important to them for grave sites, so it wouldn't be where he died. Could it be his homeland, of all places? That's when Balzac comes from behind him and asks if he can hear him. Eugene notes that he already knew he was being followed by him, but chose to ignore him on purpose. Balzac says that no matter what, he never seems to be in a good mood when he sees him. Does it have to do with him? Eugene instantly says yes, without any sense of holding back. Balzac explains that he came because he heard something about him, that he is leaving Arath in order to go to Luhar and Nahama. He is quite worried about his safety, as the northern Luhar region is very close to Helmut. Eugene asks why that would be of any importance, and Balzac notes that he only means the Lionheart influence will not work there, as Luhar used to ban the entrance of demons and dark mages. But the royal family suddenly changed their minds 5 years ago. There are tons of demon species in Helmut, and some of them disobey their rightful master, the Demon King of Incarceration. However, the Demon King of Incarceration isn't the only Demon King inside of Helmut. Eugene asks if what he is saying is that the Demon King of Ruin is preparing for another grand war, but Balzac denies it. He explains that the Demon King of Ruin does not enjoy violence and respects the great Demon King of Incarceration deeply. If he won't incite something, neither will the Demon King of Ruin. They have agreed to that. Eugene thinks about the situation and notes that the Demon King of Ruin is most likely the strongest of the Demon Kings. He saw him a single time in his past life, but he is still not sure what he saw to this day. In a wide, dark plain, a single color of sorts was moving. Nobody dared to suggest that they fight or try to kill the thing, and if Anise hadn't prayed for everyone to calm down, they would have all surely gone insane from the pressure. Balzac notes that, even if the Demon King of Incarceration is malevolent, and the Demon King of Ruin is silent, it doesn't mean that every demon follows the same rules. Demons, by nature, are violent creatures, and there are many amongst their ranks that are rather irritated by the centuries of peace. He finds it funny now that he is the one to say this, but demons aren't really the species made for peace. Eugene asks if he is saying that they could do something to him, despite the Demon Kings maintaining this peace. Balzac explains that a hefty number of them would certainly want to. This doesn't go just for the demons under his great king, but also for those who serve the Demon King of Ruin. They will do just about anything to break the silence of their silent king. There are also higher power demons that wish to be one of the new Demon Kings. Since there are only 2 of the 5 remaining, there are 3 empty positions. Duchess Zabella is one of the demons that yearns this position, and very much so. Eugene jokingly notes that they should just vote on it or something, but Balzac says that demons would just destroy the voting box if they didn't get the results they want. Eugene thinks about Zabella, which is the Night Witch Queen. Not an easy-to-get title. Can he really hope to beat a higher power demon with the skills he is currently holding? However, there is no guarantee to it, and winning might be impossible right now. He does intend to go to Luhar someday, but not yet, if that is the case. Eugene thanks him for the kind warning, and notes that he will be visiting Nahama first, and Luhar later. Balzac thinks about Nahama, and urges him to be careful when going to the deserts. not because of the sandstorms or creatures, but because of Amelia Merwin. She was once a great dark mage, even before she signed a contract with the mighty demon king of incarceration. He allows him a ton of freedom, but that freedom is doubled for Amelia. If he were to ever come across her, he should hand her this. If he does so, even if he did something harmful to her, she will not harm him. Eugene asks what this is. Balzac says it's an envelope, as he can see. Eugene asks if he can open it, and Balzac allows him. He rips off the wax and is surprised by what he finds inside. Nothing. He found nothing. Balzac explains that the contents of it are unimportant. What is important is that he possessed the letter he wrote personally. He snaps his fingers, and another envelope falls into Eugene's hands. Balzac notes that he can't do anything about the many unexpected dangers he meet while in Nahama, but he will be able to deal with Amelia's famous nasty temper. If he truly insists of going to Nahama, he should take this with him. Eugene asks what he wants in return for this, and Balzac says that he can't do anything about his disdain for dark mages, but he should take this as a small gesture of goodwill. Eugene takes no time in asking him if he swings the other way, which leaves Balzac speechless. Eugene explains that he is a little suspicious and always treats him well, so it's not like he is biased towards him. But it's a little burdensome for the Dark Tower Master to be this friendly. Balzac tells him to wait a bit, as he became quite flustered. He shouldn't misunderstand, as he simply wanted to build a close relationship, one human to another, not because of what he proposed. He excuses himself further, and Eugene notes that he will accept this graciously, since he already gave it to him and all. Also, he is very thankful for what he did, and would like to invite him to his farewell tomorrow. But he shouldn't turn up just because he said that. Human feelings are quite irritating, as he wants to invite him, but if he does turn up, it would make him hate him even more that he has. Balzac says that he will not be coming in that case, and Eugene thanks him once again for his endless generosity. With that, he leaves, and the next day, everyone is at the farewell party. The Blue Magic Tower Master comes behind Eugene and asks why he invited him. Eugene notes that they already know each other, so why not? The Blue Tower Master notes that he also knows the rest of the Magic Tower Master, so why didn't he invite them as well? Eugene notes that he must already know exactly why he didn't do that, and he urges him to not shun the Green Tower Master and Palace Mage Captain that much, as they are only acting this way because he is extremely talented. Eugene notes that if that is the case, he must not be not talented enough for him. The Blue Tower Master sighs, noting that he did want to take him under his wing, but he wouldn't dare steal Roberian's pupil so shamelessly. And he did expect this, but he really didn't invite Balzac here. Eugene notes that indeed he hasn't, and Roberian also wouldn't have liked to see him here either. But since they are on the topic, what kind of person is the Dark Tower Master anyways? He heard that he was in the Blue Magic Tower for a while, and he was in the same batch of trainees as the previous Blue Tower Master. He explains that, whether in his past or even now, he has been mysterious and unfathomable. More than 10 years ago, Balzac was supposed to be the next Blue Magic Tower Master, as he had endless potential. But suddenly, he left the Blue Tower and went to Helmud. His reasoning was that he wanted to broaden his knowledge of the magic arts. At the time, he was much weaker than Balzac, but he was able to become the Blue Tower Master after he left. 10 years later, Balzac became a dark mage after coming back from his journey to Helmud and transferred to the Dark Magic Tower. There, he became the Tower Master and received a lot of support from the other dark mages. He would have been an exceptional Blue Tower Master, one of the best in all of its history, but it seems that wasn't really enough for him. No matter how great a human is with their magic, they are still just that, a human. It would be impossible to surpass the Demon King after all. He also heard that he is going to Nahama, so he will tell him a bit about it. The desert is quite unpleasant, so this isn't some great advice, so he should take it however he wishes. If he really insists on going there, he should hide the fact that he is a Lionheart. Eugene notes that Roberian also told him the same thing. The Blue Tower Master explains that these times are quite unsettling, as the assassins of Nahama, who operate in the darkest places, are said to be operating in the light these days. He highly doubts that they would actually mess with a Lionheart, but it would be best to avoid attention, as that would be the safest. Eugene notes that he will keep that in mind. With that, the party ends, and Eugene arrives at Nahama, geared up and ready to adventure. He thinks that this dark cape would draw a lot of attention in a scorching desert like this. But fortunately, it comes with transformation magic. It also resonates with the senses of its owner, so it's taking care of both external and internal body temperature. He checks the magic map Robarian gifted him, and notes that the coordinates on it are locked to where he is standing, and it tells him where he is, no matter where he is on this continent. Right now, he is at the west end of Nahama, and if he keeps going north, he will arrive at Turath shortly. He was going to look for his grave and visit his hometown first, which is on the border of Turath, but there is no need to do that now. For the last 300 years, while he was gone, the unnatural sandstorm slowly started to devour the nearby lands. So that's why his hometown, which was on the border of Turath, became part of the ever-changing desert. Turath is a small country, so they had no choice but to give up the territories that became desert. Following all of that, the areas that became part of the desert were subsequently called New Territories of Nahama. People can naturally invade like that too, but only idiots would think that the process of becoming part of the vast desert via the sandstorm wasn't artificially produced by the sand mages. When the demon kings rose 300 years ago, the demons and monsters went berserk. Nahama took advantage of this war and tried to invade Kiel, but they eventually failed because of Vermouth. He hated this country in his previous life, and it has been 300 years, but his feelings are the same. In that case, he will go find his tomb first, and he asks the others to wait just a bit longer. Senya, Anise, and Moron. He will find them. He is determined to do so. With that, he walks into the unknown, ready to face anything. A few desert people spot him walking the great desert, and one calls him an amazing individual. As usually, foreigners like him hire caravans or guards when they cross this vast desert, but he is on his own and doesn't even have a camel with him. Another perks up and says that perhaps it is a kind of ritual. They know that he is 19 and will become an adult next year. In their tribe's coming-of-age ritual, they send boys out of the tribe once they are of age. The man notes that even if he is right about this, why would someone from the famous Lionheart family come all of the way to the desert to do it? That he doesn't know, but besides that, all they need to do is obey orders, as he told them to make sure that the boy doesn't enter the Kajani desert. The man thinks that was the only order they were given, and although he doesn't know why, he is in no position to judge their master's decisions. The other man notes that the Lionhearts and the rumors they have are true, as that kid is extremely fast, even with him being unfamiliar with the desert terrain. Suddenly he spots something that upsets him, and tells the man that he is coming this way, and quite rapidly at that. The man pulls up his binoculars to look, and indeed Eugene is running towards them. But how did he see them from so far away? He also spots the white lion mane, signaling that right now, Eugene is using the white flame method. He rushes through the desert like the wind, and the man thinks that he is coming way too fast for them to do anything, so they need to act now. However, this might be better for them. He commands everyone to pull out their weapons, as they are going to make him think they are bandits. They will steal a few valuables he has, and he might be on his way afterwards. They all do so, and Eugene thinks that their sneaking skills aren't great, so they can't be assassins. They look like travelers from just their clothing, but it's most likely a disguise. The leader of the group uses Sword Soul, which surprised Eugene. As if he can do that, he must be quite the skilled swordsman. This makes him smile. As for the past 2 years, he has only been working with the pan, more than the sword. It was fun to learn magic, true, but he liked to be physical much more. He pulls out his sword and clashes with the leader, which makes his hand tremble. He backs off, and the others rush in. They surround him, but Eugene just summons a few magic circles and eliminates the weaklings in only one strike. The leader is the only one left, and Eugene asks him 2 simple questions: who he is and why they are following him. The leader notes that they are just bandits, nothing more. Eugene says that if that is a case, Nahama is a really strong nation. Even the leader of some measly bandits can use Sword Soul. Then, a bandit group of 100 must be much stronger, and the nation must have soldiers that can take care of these bandits, so they also must be quite powerful. How amazing, as with such power, Nahama could unite the entire continent under one banner. The leader notes that they are just a little bit special, and Eugene tells him to stop screwing around, and be honest this time. But he doesn't really care if he doesn't want to say, as he will find the truth on his own eventually. The leader wonders if this guy is really of the Lionheart lineage, as he looks extremely young, but talks like a drunk mercenary. Plus, that bloodlust in his eyes is not something that a kid should have at his age. Suddenly, Eugene disappears and appears behind the leader. He notices and blocks the attack, and thinks that if his mana didn't break from the collision with Sword Soul, he must be using it too. Eugene creates a large dust shield around, which makes the man think that he will use the magic missiles again. So he creates a mana shield around him, but Eugene destroys it with just a few hits of the magic missile. The leader is extremely shocked by this, and Eugene comes out of the smoke, ready to deal the finishing blow. Just before Eugene can end the life of the group leader, with his blade being a few inches from his sleek neck, he backs away and smiles, seeming to be an insult. The leader wonders why he wanted to do that, as it is an extremely offensive thing for a swordsman. With newfound courage, or perhaps rage, he charges towards him. Eugene dodges all of his attacks, no matter how long or wide they might be, and also guards against some. He thinks that this is much better in terms of a fight, as this is the first time he is really fighting someone who has sword soul after his reincarnation. He would also prefer more bloodlust in this man's attacks, but this much is fine too. Eugene swings twice, and the attacks land on the leader's arms, who is shocked that he is moving so fast. Even if he's been hit, the wounds aren't deep at all, so he can still move his arms. This child is still going easy on him. What an insult. Now more prideful than ever before, he swings widely at Eugene, who simply backs off and starts sheathing his sword after landing. The leader asks why he is doing something like that, as he has yet to surrender. Eugene explains that he knows full well, but he shouldn't be impatient, as he will make him lose now, with his bare fists, that is. This makes the leader reach a breaking point, so he charges in without a care in the world, but with a heart filled with anger against this disrespect. Eugene dodges his extremely open attack and punches him straight in the chest, creating a crater. He grabs his head and pins him to the sand with full force. He asks one more question. Who is he? The man immediately starts explaining. He is Raman Shulhoff. But this answer doesn't please Eugene in the slightest, so he pounds his head to the sand once again. He doesn't care at all for his name. What he wants to know is who he is taking orders from. The leader is hesitant to answer, even with all of his injuries, and a face full of sand. In retaliation, Eugene pounds his head into the sand again and again. Suddenly, one of the group members pleads with him to stop, as he will explain everything. Their master, the one who gave the order, is named Tyree al-Madani. The leader tries to stop him from saying anything else, but Eugene does the good old head in the sand trick and makes him stop talking. Eugene asks who that might be, and the member explains that Sir al-Madani is Kajitan's emir. Eugene thinks that Kajitan is a city that is places right beside the western gateway he came through, so that means that this bastard he is holding is a subordinate of this town's lord. The member continues, noting that their master ordered them to chase Eugene Lionheart. Eugene asks where the master is in that sentence, and the subordinate corrects himself. Eugene also asks why he would order them to chase him like this, but the member notes that they didn't get all of the details either. All he told them is to make sure that he doesn't make it to Kayani, so he should let their leader go now, as he has answered all that he can. Eugene does so, and thinks that Kajani is the name of the desert straight ahead from this place. 300 years ago, it was Hamel's homeland, but now, it's just the middle of the Kajani Desert. That particular desert was only recently formed, and is also the cause of all these sandstorms that have been eating away the land of Turath. Does that perhaps mean that the Sand Mage's base is in Kajani? A foreigner such as himself in that kind of place would surely get some attention, so it's to be assumed that such a person wouldn't want a member of the prestigious Lionheart family waltzing around. However, out of all of these dangers, the one he has to be most careful of in Nahama is the one Balzac warned him about, Amelia Merwin. She is also contracted with the Demon King of Incarceration, so, at least for now, she is an extremely dangerous opponent. The Assur Desert, where her dungeon is rumored to be, is very far away from here, and also pretty far from where Anis was last seen, so he needn't go there, for now at least. Eugene ponders the situation for a bit, and sends the group members back, while ordering the leader to come with him, as he needs to get into Kayani no matter what it takes, so he will be the one to deal with things if any problems were to occur. He probably gets now why he needs him, right? If they take orders straight from Kajitan's emir, it's to be assumed that he would solve any issues that might rise by simply mentioning that he works for him. The leader is hesitant to respond to this proposition, and Eugene pushes him even further. If he doesn't like this pretty fair offer, he can take a walk back to the Lionheart main residence and tell the patriarch that the emir of Kajitan disguised some of his subordinates as bandits and tried to steal a precious Lionheart family treasure. Would he like that more? The leader's eyes are now filled with fear, and he notes that they didn't have any such intentions. Eugene pulls up his cloak and says that he just happens to have something very valuable on him. Does he recognize this sword, perhaps? It is the Windstorm sword Winid, which the maker of the Lionheart family, the great Vermouth, used during his life, and also during the battle against the demons. Anyone would want something as precious as this, so most people would actually believe him and think that Kajitan's emir caused all of this fuss because he wanted to steal Winid. The leader is now at a loss for words. If this boy really goes around saying something like that, not only will his head be rolling on the floor instantly, all of his subordinates will be harmed as well. Or perhaps they won't even have time for that, as their master might be killed right off. Reluctantly, he agrees to Eugene's demands and says that he will do what he wishes. This pleases Eugene, so he begins smiling like a maniac. With all of that, all of the day, they start to walk the vast desert, while the leader thinks that he has betrayed his master like a coward, as his straight orders were to stop this boy from ever entering the Kayani desert and area. So to go in now, as his guard, is just shameless. But what is more important of all? What will happen to his subordinates who returned after failing to carry out their tasks? Eugene gets his attention by calling him Rahman and asks what his position in all of this is. He begins explaining that he is the captain and leader of Legion 2 of the Red Desert Warriors and the main affiliate guard troops of Al-Madani, the emir of Kajitan. Eugene guessed that he was pretty high in the food chain, as he has the skills of a captain, so it fits him quite well. Eugene also asks if there are any desert mages to be hidden in the Kayani desert, which takes Rahman by surprise, as it seems he doesn't know what he is talking about. Eugene demands that he doesn't play dumb, lest he wants another one-sided beating. Rahman explains that he really doesn't know. But why in the first place would the desert mages who are only loyal to the royal family be in this desert, which is so far away from the capital? Eugene gets closer to him and asks if he really is that dumb. Rahman asks what he is talking about, and Eugene explains that the whole Kajani desert was originally the territory of Turath. However, a sudden sandstorm turned the once luscious forest into a vast desert. Nahama's sultan, seeing all of this, said that the desert was fated to them by the heavens and stationed his warriors in the desert to take and train. And that desertification is still going on, fortunately for them. They could never hope to do that if it were in the mighty Keel Empire. That is why they are doing it to Turath. Rahman doesn't believe him, noting that something like this is impossible. Even if he was right, their master wouldn't get involved into such a wicked matter. It's just not the person he is right now. Eugene notes that he is much more naive than he looks, as he himself is from Kayani, so he would assume that he survived the sandstorm purely by luck, and were brought up to his feet by his master. That must be why he doesn't want to ever believe that his nice and kind master could ever have anything to do with the sandstorm. Rahman doesn't know what to say about it, so Eugene urges him to at least keep this in mind, as he doesn't want to get in trouble with a foreign nation anyways, so he won't press further. However, he can guess why his master wouldn't want him to enter the Kajani desert, as things are going to become difficult once someone from the Lionheart family steps inside of the place the desert mages are hiding for the desertification. Rahman notes that he understands what he is saying, and promises that, if there are any desert mages like he says, he will be the first to step up and protect him. Even if these desert mages answer to the Sultan directly, they will show some respect in the place of his great master, Kajitan's emir. Eugene notes that he sure hopes so that is the case, and gets moving again. While trying to keep up with him, Rahman asks why he is going to the Kayani desert in the first place, as there is basically nothing there, only sand. Eugene says that he is here to find a grave. This takes Rahman by surprise, as if he wanted to visit an ancestral grave. He should have let him know earlier, as there is a large graveyard in Kajani, and he would have directly taken him to it. Eugene explains that the grave he is looking for isn't in a graveyard, and it's somewhere else entirely. Eventually, they arrive at an oasis, which puzzles Rahman, as something like this shouldn't be around here. Eugene explains that it's fake, and not a mirage. This one is purely illusion magic. Rahman notes that something like this is impossible. Why would anyone create a fake oasis around here using magic? Eugene pleads with him to keep his denial to himself from now on, as it's starting to get on his nerves. Oases like this one are very precious to travelers of these deserts, so when somebody sees one, they are bound to want to rest around here. Rahman wonders if this means that there are some people waiting to ambush them around here. Eugene takes a step forwards and notes that they will see about that. That's when a knife silently rises from the sand, and Rahman tries to warn Eugene, but he already noticed and jumps high in the air. He uses the power of an intermediate ranked wind spirit, Gale, which blows the sand away and also sends Rahman flying for a bit. The attack hits the assassin perfectly and also knocks him out. The ground starts to rumble, and many more assassins pop out of the ground, ready to take Eugene out. Before the battle can commence, Rahman rushes in and urges them to put down their weaponry. He gets in front of Eugene and explains that he is Rahman Shulhof, a warrior of the great emir of Kajitan, al-Madani, and this person is a prestigious guest of his master, so they need to put down their weapons and back off of them. If they do not, they challenge the might of Kajitan's emir. Instead of backing off, the assassins surround both of them and clench their weapons tightly. Rahman is surprised that they would dare do something like this. Perhaps they did not hear? This person is a most prestigious guest, and a son from the great Lionheart family. Eugene grabs his shoulder and explains that it's no use pleading with them, and he's just dragging this on and on at this point, while making things easier for them. Rahman asks why that is, and Eugene notes that they won't be able to send them back alive, since they already dared to attack him. But it would also be annoying to kill a Lionheart, so they will probably make him drink some poison or drug to make him shut up. But to do that, they would have to defeat him first. Rahman starts unsheathing his sword, and thinks that there are a ton of them, but he needs to help this young master fight. Eugene signals them to come at once, and they do so. One eventful day, Anis asked Hamel why he carried so many weapons he doesn't even use. He explained that one day, they will be useful, so why not? Senya told her to leave this bastard be, as he never listens anyways. Anis, however, didn't want to let it go, as Hamel's behavior is not good at all. All of those weapons which see no use are Hamel's, so why is Moron carrying everything for him? Hamel explained that he won against him at rock, paper, scissors, so this was fair and square. Anis, however, didn't think so. Why would he make a bet like that in the first place? Hamel urged her to stop making it seem like he is the bad guy in all of this, as there are a lot of things in that cart, excluding his weapons. Her most beloved holy water is also in there, and a ton of it, plus Moron's axe, which is probably the heaviest thing in there. Anis looked at him with intent, and said that if the only water was her own possession, she would have carried it herself. But the ones who consume it the most are he and Senya. Hamel then got on Senya's case, as he told her many times to cut back on the holy water, and she should have just used summoning magic to store all of this stuff. Senya started screaming at him, as he was the one that suggested they carry this stuff with them, since it would have taken a while to get it with the summoning magic. Hamel then asked for Vermouth's opinion, and also why he isn't the one to be pulling on the wagon. Vermouth simply said that his weapons weren't in there, and Hamel noted that it must be so great to have pocket inventory like his. Senya told him that she could teach him something similar, if he begged on his knees, that is. All of these fights between each other have become great memories, but now they wouldn't have insulted him so much about it if he had a cape like this one in the past. He pulls it open and summons 2 spears from it. He will do it like he did in his past life, like Hamel did. The assassins try to strike him, but Eugene jumps high into the air and throws a spear directly into the head of one, killing him instantly. Another tries to take advantage of this and strike, but Eugene notices him and dodges. This miss left him open to attack, and Eugene impales him with the spear, landing down while doing so. Another assassin tries to take him out from behind, but Eugene notices and swiftly moves behind him, cutting his head off with a clean strike. 2 other assassins pull up, and they try to take him from the side, but he throws a few knives with expert precision as he takes out 3 assassins. 2 others try to ambush him, but he uses 2 swords to defend himself, and strike at the same time. In a dance of blade and weapons, he pulls out an axe to strike another, and uses the sword to kill one that was coming for his head from above. He throws the axe into the head of an assassin, while another hides behind. He jumps high into the air, but before he can even notice, Eugene hits him from behind with some magic, giving him the opportunity to cut his head off. More and more assassins come, and while Rahman watches as he overwhelms all of them, this causes him to start shaking, as he can't ever hope to help somehow. This child is just too powerful. Eugene summons all of his weapons, and shortly after, finishes the fight single-handedly. Rahman thinks that he didn't even try to use the most powerful tool in his arsenal, Wined. He only used magic for support. He is also extremely trained with various weapons. How amazing. He notes that he shouldn't have killed them all, but Eugene explains that assassins are trained to prioritize their mission above all else. So even if they cut up their arms and legs, they wouldn't hear a peep from them. He also tells Rahman that he can go back now, since these assassins didn't care at all for his authority or who his master was. So if he wants to, he can leave, as he has no reason to bring him along anymore. Rahman says that he can't go back like this, and Eugene asks why. Does he want to check if what they talked about earlier is true or not, perhaps? Rahman doesn't respond, and Eugene notes that him not talking isn't helping the situation. Rahman pleads with him to let him come, as he will not be a hindrance at all. He can promise at least that. Eugene tells him to do as he wishes, but he shouldn't expect him to help much. That's when the ground below them starts to rumble, so Eugene jumps high into the air. The corpses of the defeated assassins start disintegrating, and Eugene thinks that they were used as sacrifices for some summoning magic. Sure enough, a large hole starts forming in the ground, and Eugene feels that a ton of mana can be felt from it. Something seriously dangerous is about to appear. Eugene stands above the hole which is about to be created, and Rahman pleads with him to run, while the sand slowly but surely transforms into a tornado, one that could easily sweep him away. Rahman is quite puzzled by this occurrence, as even though sandstorms are expected in this area, it is very strange that one of such scale would appear basically out of thin air. Perhaps Eugene was right? That the sandstorms which are swallowing the homes of people are created by sand mages? Like what happened to him, where he had to watch his dearest village be utterly destroyed, which at the time, broke him completely. This cannot be allowed to happen any further, and so, he valiantly charges into the sandstorm. He tries to slash the sandstorm with all of his might, trying to break its form, and perhaps destroy it. Unfortunately for him, even after this attack, the sandstorm stands untouched, and the slash which he has put in it slowly gets covered. Rahman is on his last legs now, thinking that now, there is nothing he can do. He's basically doomed. He also starts to sink even further in, and Eugene is still flying still. He is doing this because he can't escape the sandstorm using Gale's wind, as it would just try to suck him back in. So holding on like this is the best he can really do. Perhaps then, he should just use Blink and teleport out of this area. But now, he doesn't really want to, as something very big and perhaps even more dangerous is coming out of the sand. He spots Rahman barely holding on, and snarls, while picking him up with magic and throwing him away. He tells him to run away already. Is he dumb or something? That's when a gigantic sandworm appears right below Eugene, and before he can react, it swallows him whole. Rahman is extremely shocked, and very sad, as in order to save him, Eugene chose to be swallowed by this beast. He clenches his sword tightly, and thinks that now, he will repay this almost unpayable debt, as a true warrior should. He will be the one to slay this mighty sandworm and save the young master, even if it costs him his life. Inside of the sandworm, Eugene just falls, thinking that sandstorms are one of the few monsters that can completely erase whatever they eat using energy. So naturally, they do not have any excretory organs. So technically, it would be impossible to get out once someone gets in. That's not a problem for him, however, as he just needs to cut himself out of situation. He starts using the white flame method, and also the circle flame method, creating a powerful mass of energy. Soon enough, he crashes through the backside of the sandworm and arrives into a cave, which is rather empty and dark. He looks at the wound of the sandworm and thinks that the summoning magic only attracted the sandworm, so it wasn't summoned. It only just resided in this region. Then perhaps, what he descended onto is a sandworm nest. When mages want to focus on some rather dangerous research and not expose themselves to others, they make things called dungeons. In this vast desert, The mages nicknamed sandworms dungeon makers. He remembers when Senya told him that sandworms naturally dig into the desert and create rather stable labyrinths. One can be created in around 10 days, and apparently, if left alone long enough, a sandworm will create a complex and deep underground dungeon. All a mage needs to do is slay the sandworm after getting the desired size, and use some reinforcement magic on the structure to ensure that the whole desert doesn't just drop on you. At the time, Hamel asked her if she is going to do the same thing too, which she found as an insult, as she has no need to hide herself into a creepy dungeon like that. Eugene pulls out his map and notices that there is a path among the countless entrances, and this dungeon might actually lead to where Hamel lived, his homeland. With newfound confidence, he moves forward. Rahman wakes up from his daze tied up by sand mages and demands to know where he is situated. One of them notes that it was rather amusing to see him charge in so foolishly against the sandworm. Did he really think that he could kill such a beast at his measly level? Well, that doesn't really matter now, as they have brought him in here to ask him a couple of easy questions. Rahman is cautious at this point and asks what types of questions. The Sand Mages explains that they want to know more about Eugene Lionheart, more precisely, why the spoiled brat of the Lionheart family is going around in the Kayani Desert. And even more importantly, why is he, the warrior of the Emir of Kajitan, acting like a tour guide for him? Rahman just looks at them while sweating, making the Sand Mage think that, just maybe, the Emir of Kajitan, the presumed to be great Tyree al-Madani, is planning to betray Nahama. It is only natural that this is his first thought, as it is his sole duty to prevent people from entering this area, with his life if he has to. But now, his very own warrior is doing the exact opposite thing. How strange. Rahman asks them what they are doing in here, as the oasis above them was an illusion, and the sandstorm that came afterwards was most likely created by magic. Are all of this not their doing? The Sand Mage notes that he really doesn't understand the situation that he is in, it seems. He uses magic to twist his arms even further, and another mage explains that, in here, they are the ones that will be asking the questions, so all he needs to do is keep his mouth shut tight, for the sake of his master's honor at least. The other mage notes that, try as he might, he will die here no matter what. So, instead of an awfully painful death, shouldn't he wish for the peaceful one? He will ask him again, why is Eugene of the Lionheart family doing in Kayani? He clearly had a purpose since he entered Nahama, so the only conclusion they can really come to is that the Kayitan Emir is trying to betray the whole Nahama. Rahman thinks of his words, betray to be exact, making him come to the conclusion that his great leader, Al-Madani, was always a part of this scheme. He starts screaming at them, they are such petty creatures, using petty means to destroy the territory of another nation. They are the ones who should be protecting the royal family with their lives if they have to. So why are they all here? Were those sandstorms from above trying to also progress the desertification too? The mage explains that he is wrong about that, as in order to create a sandstorm large enough to cause such an event as desertification, they would need many more people, at least hundreds of professionally trained sand mages if not more. Rahman asks what their purpose for being here is, and the mage once again twists his arms, noting that they are in no way obligated to answer his silly questions. Why is Eugene Lionheart in Kayani? Rahman tells them that it doesn't matter anyways, as Eugene has already passed away, since he was swallowed by the sandworm they attracted. One of the mages says that perhaps it was better for him to die like this, since his life is basically worthless anyways. That's when start discussing something, about how one of them found the sandworm that swallowed Eugene, and also that it had a large hole in its backside. If potentially he broke out of there, they can't let him poke around this place, no matter what happens. They also have assassins roaming about, so he will be caught soon enough. This fills Rahman with hope, as maybe, just maybe, Eugene will rescue him. The mages discuss what to do with him once they have captured him, and one suggests that creating needless conflict with the Lionhearts is unwise, so they will just erase his memories and throw him out of Kajani. Or even better, they should act as his protectors, as they might receive some handsome rewards for their selfless actions, right? It's quite nice that he is not here, as he would have heard all of this. Unfortunately for them, Eugene appears right next to them and stares with his golden eyes. The mages are now on full alert, as they wonder what happened to the assassins that were roaming the halls. One of them uses detection magic to see further in, and finds out that all of them are lying in pools of their own blood and lifeless. The one who saw all of this thinks that the assassins were well acquainted with the maze, to the point that they would be able to go around with their eyes shut. Combined with their exemplary stealth skills, they should make it extremely difficult for even an exceptional warrior to catch them. Eugene thinks that the assassins that tried to stop him weren't that great, as stealth is just a skill, and they are not that experienced in terms of handling mana. The ones he fought in his past life, which were also assassins of Nahama, were extremely advanced and had the stealth skills that would rival demons. They were also very persistent and most determined, to the point where one would think that they are not humans anymore. The ones in here are just awfully weak. If this place really is important to Nahama, there should be better assassins put in place, right? Is Nahama, or more importantly, its Sultan, not doing anything and lazing around? Rahman screams for him, making Eugene finally notice that he is also there and wonder why he is in this place, as he made it easy for him to run away previously. What a dumbass. He notes that he has a lot of questions for the mages and approaches, but that's when one of them tries to encapsulate him in some sand. Eugene slowly pulls out the sword fragment and throws it at the sand, while covering himself from the expected blast. Sure enough, the sand disperses into 100 places. This surprises all of the mages, and they stare at Eugene, who is holding the fragment of the sword while the dust around him clears. One of them wonders what he did, perhaps dispel. But that can't be it, as dispel is something that interferes with the mana around the spell, so what he did was getting rid of the mana instantly. A dispel like that shouldn't be able to exist, not even in the Great Aroth. Is it perhaps some very secret Lionheart family technique? All of this makes the mage think that they can't capture him alive, and unfortunate as it is, they need to just kill him at this point, lest he does that to them. Eugene notes that they attacked first, so naturally, they shouldn't have any complaints if he wants to kill them too. Isn't that right? The mages are now on full alert and position themselves into a formation. They create a large shockwave made out of sand, which makes Eugene smile. When the attack almost reaches Eugene, he throws his hand back and then releases the sword fragment at extreme speeds. Without any chance of reaction, the fragment ends up into the head of a mage, killing him instantly. After that, he uses this surprise to jump high into the air and gets ready to pounce. The mages attempt to summon some magic, but Eugene already knows what they are doing. It is extremely obvious, as they are trying to make copies of themselves below, but the real attack is right above him. He pulls out a whip out of his cloak and masterfully destroys all of the projectiles that come to end his life. After that, he grabs the head of one of the mages with the whip and in gruesome fashion, pulls it off. After that, he calmly lands in front of the last remaining mage and asks him what they were doing here, as this is not a random place. The mage is too afraid to speak and can only put out some murmurs and moans. Eugene notes that they are far too weak to be a part of the Sultan's real forces. So are they perhaps doing something behind his back in here? The mage tries to deny it, but Eugene throws a knife in his leg and explains that he doesn't want to put any type of effort into questioning someone as lowly as him, so he will give him two choices: talk or die. The mage notes that the things which are occurring in this place are not done under the command of the Sultan. Eugene asks, if that is not the case, then who is he working under? The Emir of Kajitan? Is he the dumbass who is behind all of this conspiracy? The mage notes that the Emir of Kajitan is cooperating with them. But now, Eugene sees that this guy is trying to dodge the question again, so he gives him some motivation to talk, another knife in his leg. This makes the mage instantly speak, explaining that the one behind all of this is Amelia Merwin. This very place that they are standing on is her sacred dungeon. Eugene asks him to not spout any nonsense, as from the information he received, Amelia Merwin's dungeon is situated in the Asur Desert, which is quite far away from this place. The mage notes that she has been going back and forth from there to here for about 6 years, give or take. Eugene ponders the information and asks, why here of all places would she create such a meticulous dungeon? The mage seems to be too afraid to answer any further questions, which makes Eugene think that he is very afraid of Amelia Merwin. So, out of the kindness of his heart, he will make this very easy for him. He will die, sure, but he will kill him in a simple and perhaps even painless manner. Amelia Merwin wouldn't let him die a peaceful death at all. But perhaps he already knows that. This scares the mage even further, to the point where his eyes become bloodshot, and so he starts explaining. This dungeon was created with the purpose of quickening the progress of the desertification, and there are many more dungeons like this one in the entire Kaijani dungeon. But this one was made around 10 years ago. Almost 6 years ago, the choice to expand this labyrinth-like dungeon was made, and they assumed it was because the underground was unstable and had cracked over time. But what they found was a gigantic gate deep underground. They tried to open the door to that place, but it didn't budge at all. And so, they asked Amelia Merwin for help. Eugene is satisfied enough with all of this information, and so kills him swiftly, as he has previously promised. With this, the restraints put on Rahman also come loose, and Eugene thinks that now the warriors around here being so weak doesn't surprise him. They are all positioned in places like this, under the direct command of Amelia Merwin, to remove any travelers who would dare approach. Rahman gets his attention and advises to get out of this place as quickly as possible, as if this is truly one of Amelia Merwin's Blackthorn dungeons. They are in extreme danger at all times. Eugene notes that they are already inside as it is, and the chances of Amelia Merwin suddenly popping up are low, as her true dungeon is in the Asur desert. Rahman explains that, even with this, she could come back at any moment, as they do not know how she moves between them. Eugene in turn asks him, does he know what will happen if they leave this place? She will most likely be after him even then anyways, as she is adamant on killing anyone who dares invade her territories and make a mess. One way or another, they will bump into her at one point. He thinks that conflict with Amelia Merwin should be very avoided, but at this point, he doesn't have much of a choice. He looks at Rahman and asks him, why is he not running away? Because it is as he said, this place is quite dangerous. Rahman explains that he has saved his life twice already, and as a man, if Amelia Merwin comes back and tries to harm him in any way, he will fight with his life if it means to help him. Eugene notes that he doesn't have any real skills to speak of, so he should just go back where he came from and leave him alone already. Rahman refuses and is adamant on coming with him, as his warrior honor is at stake. Eugene uses Blink to teleport behind him and knocks him out cold, while lamenting having to do this, as he finds it quite annoying. With that, he leaves, while thinking about how the dungeon was expanded 6 years ago. He was 13 at the time, when he had to take the blood succession ritual. That is when he found Hamel's artifact in the treasury, and got it, as a reward for his performance. The labyrinth had existed for 10 years already, but some of it collapsed 6 years ago. If perhaps the magic that was sealing the grave disappeared, because he got the necklace, it means that witch, Amelia Merwin, had messed with his grave. Eventually, he finds the large hole that the mage talked about, and thinks that, almost certainly, this is where his grave is situated. Eugene jumps down using his Gale abilities, and eventually arrives at a sturdy metal door, which seems to be open. Eugene thinks that this is the door that the Sand Mage talked about, and Amelia Merwin surely must have been the one to open it. With no other feasible choice, he jumps down and spots that there are countless holes in the ground, and also in the walls, clearly signaling that there was a battle around here, a fierce one at that. Was it Senya, perhaps? He continues to walk through the halls, and eventually finds something that surprised him to his core. His grave, which notes as so. Hamel Dinus lived from 421 to 459. A piece of garbage, idiot, dumbass, and straight up annoying. But also brave, faithful, wise, and most importantly, great. This tombstone is in praise of him, who has sacrificed himself for their all of humanity and left much earlier than he should have. Eugene tries to hide his face and deny his emotions, but they get the better of him, and he starts crying uncontrollably. While he does that, he wonders why Senya didn't say all of these things about him while he was still alive, as he couldn't have seen this gravestone if he was dead. He continues to cry, perhaps from sadness, perhaps from gladness, or perhaps both, but eventually, he stops, and his eyes become puffy. He thinks that the fight that was fought in here must have been quite fierce, as this grave is basically in utter ruins. However, the statue and memorial stone were untouched and pristine. From his deduction, it seems that 200 years ago, Senya senses that the familiar spirit which was protecting this grave has died, and left Aeroth to come protect Hamel's grave. That is when she fought the person who wanted to do something to the grave, most likely. Sure, Senya is strong. Always has been, really. But even more so after his demise. The wise Senya that he saw through witchcraft was someone that he could confidently say was the most powerful mage in the whole world, no questions asked. However, Senya seems to have been unable to win. As if she had won this battle, she wouldn't have just left this grave standing in ruins. She also didn't die in this dark place, as the illusion he saw in Aeroth indicates that she is alive. She must have been gravely injured, and thus retreated someone to hide. But just who could injure her to that point? A demon, or perhaps even the Demon Kings. Maybe it was the Demon King of Incarceration, or maybe the Demon King of Ruin. Sitting around here and pondering this situation won't help further, so he needs to go and find Senya first, by looking around for a while, as there may still be some clues around here. While walking around, Eugene can't help but think about how his friends made this grave, and how they most likely bawled their eyes out while setting up the statue. Would have Vermouth cried then? Because he can't really imagine him crying. Even after they defeated a most thorough opponent, and everyone was celebrating the victory, Vermouth usually looked around at his injured friends and criticized himself. He said that he shouldn't have let them get injured, and done better. This bothered both Hamel and Anise, and mostly Hamel told him that he is also a human being, just like them, and can't do everything on his own. If he thinks he does, he should just go alone, right? At the time, Anise told Hamel to stop filling Vermouth's ear with nonsense, but Hamel noted that he also saw her expression when Vermouth said what he said, so he must have felt the same way. Anise told him that wasn't aimed towards Vermouth, but him, as she predicted that he was going to act like a baby. Eugene thinks that he will never be able to have a conversation like that with his dearest comrades ever again, which makes him almost cry. So he stops thinking about it, as his eyes will become even more puffier at this point. That's when he spots a large ornate metal door, which is also opened, a common trait in this place it seems. When he goes inside of the room, inside, he finds only another door, and someone standing on the ground next